What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up there. Stream it up on your smart devices. Got the app and the video stream, which is also up and rolling right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Appreciate you making us part of your start on this Tuesday morning of February. What do we got here? I'm getting my days mixed up. Yeah, 27th. For some reason I think it was the 26th yet. February 27th. What do we got on the game plan for us this morning? Bucks are back in action tonight as they've got the first of two straight games against the Charlotte Hornets. This one will be in Milwaukee before they hit the road against Charlotte on Thursday. But we'll see if the Bucks can get 3 wins in a row since the All-Star break. We'll see what we'll hit that up coming up a little bit later on as we talk some hoops and talk some Bucks and that good stuff. But it's also a night too where you got the Badgers back in action, Badger basketball. Been a week since we've seen them in action. They take on Indiana. Badgers again left off the top 25 latest rankings that dropped yesterday, the AP poll rankings. No big surprise. I mean, they just played one game last week and not enough to move up in the top 25. Marquette, though, moved up a couple spots to number 5. So we'll talk some talk some college hoops coming up here with the Badgers, especially RJ Cardinal. He'll be joining us coming up in a couple hours from now, 8:20. We'll take a look at this game, but we got to talk some hockey here too. We gotta give Mike Hastings, the Badger men's hockey coach, some flowers. We got to give him a little bit more of his due. I know we've talked about him throughout the season, this team throughout the season, but his first year at the helm, he's got his team playing for the Big Ten championship this weekend. And it's a perfect day because it is a Rays place who cut and didn't cut the mustard. You want to put Mike Hastings on that list of a guy who cut the mustard. I don't think a lot of people will argue with that. But it's kind of maybe a little bit under here, but what this team has done, what the job that Mike Hastings has done has been phenomenal. Phenomenal so far this year. And I wonder if that's where a lot of kind of Badger fans may be looking at the basketball program and kind of saying, okay, depending on what happens for the rest of the season, and tournament wise and such, but maybe with how this men's hockey team has kind of completely turned itself around and has put themselves in a position that I think has exceeded a lot of expectations for year one. Maybe some Badger hoops fans out there kind of wanting the same thing with that program. I could be just pure speculation, but something I think some people are not. I'm not the only one who's just thinking about that. I don't think so. But we'll talk plenty of Badgers with Mr. RJ coming up in a couple hours from now. About 8:20 this morning. At women's hockey as well. Also going to be going up against St. Thomas. They start their postseason play later on this week. So we'll get to that. Baseball wise, we've got another spring training game in the books. Another one coming at you this afternoon against the Angels. But the Brewers just kind of continuing to go through these games and that such. But MLB.com, it's got an article up. One dark horse candidate to potentially make the opening day roster. And Adam McCalvey from Brewers.com put his selection was Christian Arroyo. He's a non-roster invite. He's an infielder, outfielder. Can play every position on the infield and the outfield. Even expected to see some action at first base. Plenty of looks at third base. So kind of an interesting one. But yesterday we had Sal Frelick again getting to start at third base. Sal Frelick, leader in the clubhouse for your opening day starting third baseman. Could it be potentially? Is that going to be the case here? I mean, early glimpses, early showings right now, kind of look that way. But yeah, another start, top of the order yesterday. 3 at bats, but getting the work in at third base, and even got some work in, got a double play. So maybe, who would have thunk just a couple of weeks ago that our opening day, potentially our opening day starting third base for the Brewers, was going to be Sal Frelick. Got some more action with Jackson Cheerio yesterday. He had a couple at bats, picked up another hit, also took a walk over there too. So got more of the youngsters. Joey Weaver right now, I mean, you're looking at, I know it's incredibly early and we don't want to overreact or anything like that to some of these numbers, but so far early goings of his at bats, the spring training, not off to a great start. He's only got a few at bats here, but he's a guy too that I think we're all looking to maybe, hopefully, take a step up this year, maybe make that jump. So, but we'll talk some baseball, talk some Brewers baseball coming up a little bit later on the docket as well. We're going to talk some football Packers adding some more assistant coaches. It sounds like they got a new assistant offensive line coach. We talked about a defensive assistant yesterday. So Packers just kind of adding some more assistants here there. The Packers also yesterday, it was reported by Tom Pelissero, they are converting a little bit of or converting Rashawn Gary's contract, creating some cap space. Remember, Rashawn Gary just signed a contract last year. This has kind of been a typical thing when it comes to the Packers and a lot of their newly re-signed big free agents. They've done this before in the past where, a few months ago they locked up a guy and then in the next offseason they kind of already restructure it and create some cap space there. But it opened up about $4 million and some change in cap space and such. And I know we talked a little bit about the cap and, with the increase in the cap yesterday, an historic rise in it, and what could it potentially mean? Could it be for a team like Green Bay? Are they just kind of looking at this as an opportunity to get their cap situation a little bit healthier? Could they actually spend a little bit more? I think the Rashawn Gary one is maybe a little bit of a hint that they're, I mean, because you're still, when you do that, you're kicking the can a little bit down the road. You're kicking it down there. So could Green Bay potentially be getting themselves ready to be some players in free agency? I still feel like they're not going to be big time playmakers in free agency. I think we're still waiting for the David Bakhtiari one because right now, according to Over the Cap, with the adjustment from Rashawn Gary, they got about $7 million. It's got to be a little bit more. Again, there's so many different numbers out there. I've seen from 7 to 8, 12 to 2. I mean, I'll use Over the Cap right now. But if we move on from David Bakhtiari, if I click this little cut button, it increases it by, again, nearly $20 million, a little over $20 million. One player can make the difference between a couple different players. Yes, you're taking on a big dead cap hit, but you're talking about completely altering your available cap space for this year. And then if we wanted to do a little restructure of Kenny Clark, which has kind of been talked about out there, I mean, you're potentially opening up another $11 million. You move on from DeAndre Campbell. You're talking already 3 moves. 3 moves. About $43, $42 million in available cap space for Green Bay. But again, how much do they want to kick the can down to the road? How much do they want to continue to do that? And they got Jordan Love's gonna get a contract this offseason. Jordan Love's gonna get Right now, his cap hit for this upcoming season's at about 12.8 for rounding. He's going to get a contract, and maybe it lowers that cap hit for this year, but that cap is going to get higher in the coming years. But you want to talk about the discrepancy of like some of these cap hits and such. It's like, whew, it goes from Rashawn Gary at 11.1, 11.2. And right now, according to Over the Cap, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th, the ninth highest. You know who's got the 10th highest? Lucas Van Ness at a 3.9. Yeah. A lot of. So why are they maybe not one of the teams with the highest available cap space? Dead cap money. David Bakhtiari. Couple of things over there. So, and you got Kenny Clark, who's got a big cap hit, and Jair Alexander and such too. And Aaron Jones, for running back two, has got $17 million of a cap hit. But speaking of little football and such, we got the combine that's starting later on this week, and it made me kind of think here a little bit. What is, in your opinion, the most overrated or one of the most overrated events, sports events that are out there? Because I do believe it is the combine. As much as I love the NFL draft is one of my favorite, easily one of my top two, top three favorite sports events out there. Love the NFL draft. But I feel like the combine is incredibly overrated. Now, could it be just simply that the NFL pipes it up so much and media pumps it up so much that it gets to be a little overrated? Possibly. I think there's elements to the combine that are beneficial. But for me, overall, a lot of it I think is a little overrated. It's a little overrated. I'll explain that coming up here in just a little bit too. As I mentioned, it is a raised place Tuesday. Who cut and didn't cut the mustard? It's kind of like studs and duds there. If you're not familiar for what we do with who cut and didn't cut the mustard. So I want your picks. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line at 715-830-1912. It is also a Grind My Gears Tuesday. If something is grinding your gears and you want to get it off your chest, but got to keep it appropriate so I can say it on the air for you. Or maybe if you just really got to get something off your chest to feel better, I'm here for you too. So you can utilize that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line with a quick text over there. So let's get things rolling here this morning. We're going to talk some hoops. Bucks, Badgers, both in action tonight. We've got another spring training game coming up this afternoon. We've got some football chat to hit up here as well. So let's jump right into it. We'll take that first break, and we've got the leadoff coming up in just a couple minutes. Sometimes you just need a little me time, and what makes your me time better is a great cup of coffee in a relaxing, cozy environment. That's exactly what you will get when you visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Why settle for low quality coffee for your me time when you can have a freshly roasted brew with many different flavor options located right in your own backyard? Need a quick bite to eat during that me time? Hey, Cabin Coffee has you covered as well with a menu filled with breakfast, lunch, and bakery items. Having a good cup of coffee just instantly puts us in a good mood. That is, if you get your coffee from Cabin Coffee. So take a little me time and visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona, located in River Park District, and experience what quality coffee really is. Already on my second cup this morning of a little giddy up from Cabin Coffee there. Catching up, we already got a couple texts coming in here. The Hall of Famer, G-Man himself, DK, the Bucks will win tonight, and Bucky will win tonight. Also, now you're talking go Bucky on Wisconsin and Brewers. Just take it one game at a time, and you will be ready for opening day. Go Brewers. Pack will need to make the right moves. Just you watch and listen. Go Pack, go. Jeremy also chiming in. We threw out that question. But what do you think is the most overrated sporting event out there? Jeremy's saying, I agree with you on the combine. A bunch of guys just running around and doing testing, yet it gets so hyped up. I understand it's got some benefits to some teams over there, but overall, I think it is hyped up. Another question I wanted to throw out there too. I mean, I know it was kind of more of a topic maybe yesterday on some national stuff and that, but what do you think about court storming? Yay or nay? What is the etiquette on court storming? It's a big topic right now with the Duke and Wake Forest game. Duke player getting injured. Kyle Filipowski. Should they put on a full on ban of court storming? I mean, we don't see it at the pro level. Anybody who's gone to a Packer game knows it's mentioned a few times by Bill Jarts, the public address announcer for the Packers. Anybody who runs on the field, you're going to jail. Just got to sum it up. Yeah, you're gonna be taken somewhere. You're gonna be taken somewhere. You don't see it. I mean, once in a while you got streakers and such, but we know what happens with those peeps. But are you thumbs up, thumbs down? Is it a part of the college tradition? We see it on football fields sometimes in college football too, right? Another texter coming in here. I think one of the most overrated events is the NBA draft, and now that they're expanding it to 2 days, they're just trying to get a little bit of extra milk from the cow in that one. All right. Another one going. I agree. It's the combine for me is the most overrated sporting event. That one is from Evan. It looks like so. You know, I think the combine officially starts on Thursday or whatever it is. Here's my thing when it comes to the combine, why I think it's one of the most overrated sporting events. And again, the draft is one of my favorite events. And I'm talking like Super Bowls, March Madness, Masters. I'm lumping it in that. The draft is easily one of my favorite events. I mean, I'm planting my butt in front of the TV or going to it next year. Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday. I think what is it? April 25th, 26th, and 27th this year. I mean, I can sit there and watch it, and I get it. Especially when it comes to the Saturday picks, it can get a little boring. And it's got some guys in there. It's like, who's that? Never heard of the guy before. I don't know why, but I love the draft. I love it. So you'd think somebody who loves the NFL draft would be all about the combine, and I just no. I can't. Some can, but I can't sit there and watch offensive linemen run 40s and try to like how does this benefit them? Like how for a 310-pound left tackle or whatever the case may be, he runs a fast 40. How does that help him out on the field and that? You know, but I do think there's benefits to it to the combine. To me, I think that some of the bigger benefits is when these front office staffs, these GMs, and I guess some coaches now, not all coaches, but they get to talk with these players it feels like it should be more of a networking event, right? I mean, a lot of us have been to those for our jobs or whatever. You got to go to a networking thing or a job fair or whatever. It's like a job fair slash networking thing. I feel like one of the more beneficial things is, for some of these teams, this might be their first time actually getting in front of a player, getting to know them, asking some questions. It's a job interview. And just trying to, I mean, that's all what job interviews are, right? You're bringing somebody in for an interview and you're hiring a person based off of how that interview went. You got your pro days, you can bring players in and such, but there's a max that you can do. And when it comes to a pick like this, you probably want to bring in guys and talk to them as much as possible. Again, how many times on the interview market do we maybe go through 2 or 3 interviews before somebody gets hired? So I feel like when it comes to the combine, that's the beneficial part, that teams can talk to these players. And I'm sure some of these drills are beneficial, like the cone drills. Some teams, they've got certain numbers. You're going to see this plastered all over the social media and such. I don't need to bore you all with this, but you're going to see as soon as this combine kicks off. Well, Green Bay really likes guys that can run this drill in under 7 seconds. Look at all these guys. These are benchmarks. You're going to see that. And maybe some teams have that. But overall, for me as a fan, I can't sit in front of the tube and watch it constantly. I can't. Quarterbacks, making throws to wide receivers, just no. Some of these guys don't even do it. Say, look at the tape, or they'll do it at their pro day, right? They'll do it over there. So I think it gets a little overrated here, little overrated. So, but that's just my opinion. So, but I'm getting ready for constant talk throughout the whole week over here, right? Get it? Get ready for it. Let's talk some baseball here. A couple of you had chimed in a little bit earlier about baseball. Somebody had asked a question about Sal Frelick. Do you really think Sal Frelick could be the opening day starting third baseman for the Brewers? I think the job's up in the air right now, and I think they're giving Sal Frelick a chance to win that job. I honestly feel like that. You've got 2 games into spring training right now, and he has been the starter. Been the starter over there at third base. So, yeah, I think there's a shot. I think there's a chance that he could be the opening day starter at third base for this team. Which means, we know Yelich is going to be the starting left fielder. I think Jackson Chourio is going to be an opening day starter in center field. And then you've got Joey Wiemer, Garrett Mitchell potentially over in right field. But no, I honestly feel like that's a possibility now, which 2 weeks ago wasn't, or maybe a little over 2 weeks ago, whenever that article from The Athletic dropped. It didn't seem, that wasn't even a thought, because we didn't think, and nobody said anything about it. Brewers didn't talk about it. Sal Frelick didn't talk about it. Others didn't talk about it. But now you look at the last couple weeks and you look at these, couple games already in spring training. Yeah, I absolutely think it's a possibility. I know some people already like to have some opening day projections and lineups and such, but if you're kind of looking at it, maybe it might be a Sal Frelick, Willy Adames, Bryce Terang, and then, boy, would it be Tyler Black at first base, Hoskins? I mean, Tyler Black's the other guy involved in this equation too. But as our good friend Mr. Brandon Berg has mentioned many times, he could be a guy that moves over to first base. Still up in the air, but no, I think it's absolutely possible. Absolutely. Which, I mean, maybe potentially answer some of the questions. When you think about third base, you think about a power bat, right? You think about a guy who hits for some long balls, for some distance and such. And Sal Frelick, not necessarily that way, but Who else? I mean, there's not really any other options on this current roster at this point in time. So something still. I mentioned it yesterday. I think it's now a storyline to follow. It's something to pay attention to a little bit more with these spring training games, because sometimes it's hard to kind of like, okay, what are we paying attention to? What are we watching in this spring training game? We're not necessarily looking at the results. So what should we be looking at? That's one of them. Another one might be Aaron Ashby. We talk about the starting rotation here for the Crew. We know it's Freddie. We know it's Wade Miley. Those are going to be your top two. Brandon Woodruff ain't pitching this year. Then you kind of look at behind that, DL Hall, guy who came over from the Corbin Burns trade. Brewers view him as a starter. Brewers last year viewed Aaron Ashby as a starter. They still view him as a starter. Colin Ray is a guy that, because of injuries last year, when he got some starts, you're like, who the heck is Colin Ray now? Who's that guy? Now he's into the conversation about potentially being in that 5-man starting rotation. Jacob Junis, Robert Gosser get in there. Jacob Mizorowski, a couple prospects there. I think now another thing to kind of be paying attention to is the back end of the starting rotation. Because really, I think you're only I think they only got 2 locks right now in the starting rotation. Like absolute locks. Pencil it in now. They're going to be on the roster. That they stay healthy. And that's Freddie Peralta and Wade Miley. Then after that, I think I honestly feel like it's up in the air. Can it be Aaron Ashby getting one of those? Let's say we're going to use the top 5. So 3 spots open. Is it going to be Ashby? Is it going to be Colin Ray? Is it going to be Jacob Junis, who's a veteran? Is it going to be DL Hall, the guy they brought in? They got Robert Gosser. They got Jacob Mizorowski. That's 6. What? 6? Did we say 6 for 3 spots there? So I really hope Aaron Ashby can stay healthy, build up his arm strength, and handle a starter's workload. Because his stock was right. We saw it a couple years ago. It's like, okay, we can kind of see where maybe that progression is going. It was very similar to a lot of Brewers pitchers that we've seen throughout the years. It was similar to Freddie Peralta. It was similar to Brandon Woodruff, a little similar to Corbin Burns. You're getting some spot starts coming out of the pen and then maybe transitioning to a starter role. That seemed to be the trajectory of Aaron Ashby, and then he got hurt last year. We didn't get to see him at all. But this is a dude, along with these other pitchers, that I think is going to be something kind of curious to watch. And this is where it's got to be for a guy, for some of those guys. When you enter spring training with a little uncertainty whether you're going to get a starting spot or maybe not even a spot on the 40-man, how do you approach spring training? It's a little bit different maybe from a guy like Freddie Peralta that is going to be one of your starters. So you know what? Hey, he can work on some stuff. Numbers may not look that great, but he's maybe trying some new pitches. Whereas you got guys like Ashby, Colin Ray, DL Hall, a couple prospects that want to impress and get a spot on this ball club. Ashby pitched in a simulated game on yesterday through a couple innings. According to Brewers.com, his stuff did look sharp. Sinker sat around 92 to 94 miles per hour. His 2 breaking balls had the movement he's used to generating, and he also threw some good sliders and curves while he was out there. Ashby saying afterwards, the velocity is coming back how we thought it would. All the shapes are there, how they're supposed to be. We're pretty happy with the way everything's moving right now. The sinker, the curveball, the slider, everything. Says here, too, he was sitting at 96 miles per hour in 2022 and dialing it up to 98, 99 miles per hour at his best. For a lefty starter, that's pretty darn good. And Colin Ray's another pitcher, too, who's been adding a little bit to his arsenal. The guy who came out of nowhere Now he's adding a changeup. It seems like he's said the other day, I never had a good feel for a changeup. But this was his after his performance against Colorado, threw 12 of his 16 pitches for strikes that included those changeups there. He said that it had been years and years and years of messing around with grips. A few weeks before camp started, I came across a split changeup grip. Feels pretty good so far. I'm going to implement it a lot this spring to see how hitters react to it. So another thing to be paying attention to this spring training. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more after these few words. We'll talk some hoops. Got both the Bucks and the Badgers in play tonight. Get on the bus with us to Milwaukee's opening day. April 2nd, Tuesday, April 2nd. Milwaukee taking on Minnesota in an early border battle game. Just head to wiscotrips.com to reserve your seat on the bus. Your ticket includes a game ticket to the Johnsonville Party Deck. That includes food and beverages, and for anybody 21 and older, 2 domestic beers. Also, round trip motor coach transportation, tailgate party from Premier Catering, complete with brats, dogs, chips, water, select sodas, also available on the bus ride down there too. Again, more details at wiscotrips.com or just hit up sportstalk1051.com and you got that icon right there on the homepage. But these are going to go quick. They're going to go fast. So if you want to reserve your seat on the bus and head on over to Milwaukee's opening day as they take on Minnesota, better reserve those spots right now. Speaking of a little baseball, also coming up this weekend is movie number 2 for the Spring Kids movie series presented by Mycon Cinemas, Backyard Dreams, partnering up with Mycon Cinemas. March 2nd through the 3rd, it's Bad News Bears, the original, with Walter Matthau. These movies are going to be at the Mycon Cinemas location, the Oakwood Mall. 11 a.m. show times, just $3 for admission, $2 popcorns, $2 sodas, portions of the proceeds going to Backyard Dreams so we can help out some local organizations and such. So again, that's movie number 2 this weekend. Walter Matthau and Bad News Bears getting ready for baseball season there. All right. We've got hoops games tonight, though. We got a couple of hoops games tonight. Badgers and Bucks all in action. Let's start off with the Badgers taking on Indiana at 6 p.m. Badgers are favored by 4.5 in this game. Badgers looking for their 19th win of the season. Currently, Indiana is 14-13, but just 6-10 in conference play. You're looking at it in terms of maybe some conference seedings and such with the conference tournament coming up here. Wisconsin tied with Northwestern for 3rd in the Big Ten. Purdue still holding on to first place. Illinois is now 2.5 back from Purdue. Northwestern and Wisconsin 3.5 back from Purdue, 1 back from Illinois. But Nebraska is right behind Northwestern and Wisconsin. Nebraska 10-7 in conference play, and they're actually 20-8 overall this season. So Indiana, though, they're a bottom 3 team in the conference. But as we know, when it comes to Wisconsin lately, that really doesn't seem to matter where these teams are at and ranked in their conference because, well, the dead last team was Michigan. We know what happened there, right? We know what happened in that game. But with these final 4 games here with Wisconsin, you've heard RJ talk about it, talking about getting to 20 wins. That 2 of these 4 are against teams who are better than you. Illinois, and you finish up with Purdue. So if that benchmark is 20 wins, and you're sitting there right now at 18, you got basic math tells me you got to win tonight, and you got to beat Rutgers on the 7th. It's that simple. I'd like them to at least, I personally would like them to win 3 of their next 4. Maybe try to get a little momentum into this conference tournament, but I don't know. Looking at some of the numbers leading into this game, Wisconsin so far this season has been averaging 74.3 points per game while allowing 68.7, shooting 46.3% from the field. Indiana, they are scoring 72.9 points per game, but allowing 75.2, and they are shooting 47.4% from the field, and they are currently on a 4-game losing streak. Losses against Penn State, Nebraska, Northwestern, and getting plummeted by Purdue back on February 10th. Their last win was against Ohio State back on the 6th. So you got that game. This will be in Indiana. Then we've got the Bucks, who will be in Milwaukee, taking on the Charlotte Hornets, first of a 2-game kind of series here because they got Charlotte home tonight, then they're on the road against Charlotte on Thursday. But when we take a look at this game, I think we're kind of looking like, okay, 2 big wins coming off the All-Star break, right? 2 big wins against Minnesota and the 76ers. Let's start to build off that. Stacking success. Continuing this because Charlotte is way inferior than you. I'm sorry, but there is no reason why Charlotte should win this game. Now, I get it. They're actually playing a little bit better in their last 2 games here. If we go a little bit before the All-Star break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they have won 5 of their last 6 games. Not bad. Before that, though, they were on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 game losing streak. So they are playing a little bit better. But Milwaukee, don't screw around. Okay, you got 2 big wins coming off the break. Don't screw around with Charlotte. And I think that's kind of been one thing that a lot of Bucks fans have chimed about is, do they play down to the competition? You know, they'll go up against Minnesota, play well, and come away with a victory. Or some of these other teams play tough, play well, come away with W's. But when they go up against a Memphis Grizzlies team that is missing like all their starters, and they got guys who are on 10-day contracts starting the game, and they lose that game, when the Bucks got Giannis and Dame on the floor, you have a lot of Bucks fans that have kind of wondered, do they play down the competition? We'll find out tonight. We'll get another example of that tonight if they do. Don't screw around in this one. Milwaukee's favored by 14.5. Woo! 14.5. Don't expect Middleton to play. I mean, he's already out. Doc says he's getting closer. I feel like we probably won't see him maybe until that game on the 4th against the Clippers at the earliest. Could be completely wrong, but for those 2 wins coming out of the All-Star break, I want to see this Bucks team come out and just wipe the floor with Charlotte tonight. Just completely wipe the floor with them. Look like you are the cream of the crop. Like, don't give them any little breathing room. Don't. In your first 2 games this year, you have plummeted the Charlotte Hornets. Go back to November, Bucks beat them by 31. February 9th, Bucks beat them 120-84. So you've plummeted them in the first 2. Continue to do that tonight. No reason why you can't. When we look at the latest standings right now, the Bucks are 1 game back from the Cleveland Cavaliers for the division, which means they're also 1 game back from that 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference. So not a whole lot of changes here. Boston, Cleveland, Milwaukee, New York, about 2 games back from Milwaukee for that 3rd spot, though. Otherwise, it's, kind of the same up there. You got Minnesota and OKC tied for the top right now. Minnesota holding on to that 1 spot, but it still continues to be tight. Denver's in that 3rd spot. Clippers in the 4th spot. Next game up for the Minnesota Timberwolves, your number 1 team in the Western Conference, is going to be tomorrow against the Spurs. No, tonight against the Spurs. Tonight against the Spurs. So, all right, coming up next hour, we'll kick it off with a little Raised Plays, who cut and didn't cut the mustard. I want your picks, so hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Then coming up at about 8 o'clock, we'll get to a little Grind My Gears Tuesday. What's grinding your gears? Get it off your chest. Let us know. Make it appropriate so I can at least say it on the air. We're going to give Mike Hastings some love when we talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal. Hey, maybe we'll give him a little love before then too. But you got this Badger men's hockey team that's competing for a Big Ten championship this weekend. What a turnaround this year has been for this team. First year for Mike Hastings coaching the Badgers. We've got the women's hockey team beginning their postseason run as well. And, of course, Badger basketball tonight. So we've got lots to catch up on with RJ. I'll even throw in some combine questions with him Braylon Allen and such, getting ready for the combine and that. What can he do maybe to help improve his stock? Is there anything that he can do at the combine? What are some of the biggest questions maybe surrounding Braylon Allen as he's going throughout this draft process right now? So got a couple Badgers to maybe kind of keep tabs on if you are one that pays attention to the combine and gets excited or pumped up about it. So we'll get to that. RJ is about 8:20. Yeah, 8:20, 8:25 here this morning. We'll get back to some of your texts a little bit later on too. We'll finish up the first hour with Morgs. Good morning, Morgs.
Hey, how's Kasper today?
Oh, living a dream.
Representing a little Blue Colts action with the shirt today.
I actually have to go to campus after this.
Ooh, what are you gonna do on campus?
Got recording the latest episode of the Rollin' with the Golds podcast. Special guest.
That'll be
I don't know if
good.
I'm allowed to say who it is yet.
Say it.
I don't know if I can.
Why? It's embargoed?
I don't know if they'll get mad at me for ruining a surprise.
Okay, well, I don't want to ruin a surprise.
I'll tell you off the air, okay?
Okay, fair enough. Then we'll both know. And then everybody else will be twice as annoyed because you can't tell the class. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have approval yet.
Oh, well, then you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't been given the green
I don't know
light.
if I can yet, so.
Well, we won't make you do that. We'll make you do this. We're going to do a Tuesday edition of This or That. Go down a list and you answer this or that. So number one, fittingly enough, you're headed to campus today for the Golds. Playlist or podcast?
Podcast.
Do you listen when you're in the deer stand? I mean, you're supposed to be listening for deer, but are you one of those people that...
I'm one of those that I can't even wear a stocking cap because I feel like I can't hear them.
Okay. So you're there to listen to the woods. You don't put anything in the ears.
Although I did this last season, I had it on mute though. I did watch the end of that Packer game in my tree stand. So
what do you do when you work out? Playlist or podcast?
Playlist.
Yeah. So you're a music guy.
I'm big into. I don't know what you would call this era right now, but it's like the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it rock.
Alternative.
It's
Give me some bands.
Yellow Card.
Okay.
Crossfade.
Okay. So I would say you're doing a little bit of alternative.
Is that alternative?
Yeah.
Okay. That sort of stuff.
Dip into that a little bit.
Kind of like my wheelhouse.
Okay.
When I was growing up.
So what's the song on rotation right now? Your favorite? Like you're dip into?
It's like the Madden soundtrack.
Okay.
It's like it's got is it Audio Then? Is
that one of them? Or Audio Slave, maybe. Audio
like
Slave, Chris Cornell,
Yeah,
you're dealing in a little bit of the alternative era. Yeah. That's kind of grunge rock.
Is it grunge? Okay.
I would say.
Flyleaf is on my playlist.
Maybe a little bit of Thornley. You can dip into some Thornley. That'd be good on there too.
Got Wasteland on there.
Okay. Pork or beef?
Beef.
All the time?
Not all the time. Pork if it's bacon.
Okay, so bacon. I think most people think of bacon as a separate item from pork.
Exactly.
There's pork and then there's bacon and beef. But if it comes down to two, you're going beef?
Yep.
Swimming pools or the beach?
Swimming pools.
Okay.
I've been tarnished with beaches.
Why? What happened to you at the beach?
Saw snakes coming through.
Oh, ew. Okay, so
By the way,
eels.
New Zealand. I found this out the other day.
What?
The only country in the world with no snakes.
That can't be true.
I'm dead serious. Heard it on a pod.
Antarctica.
Well, you didn't let me finish. The only country that has like a non-predatory mammal.
Okay.
No like poisonous snakes or spiders.
That sounds like you got your hands on the tourism board that's trying to lure people there with false information.
It's true. So
I don't know if I believe that.
That's why I won't go to Florida. That's true.
Anacondas, right?
Oh,
that's all you need to think of, and you're out. You're out.
Second hour kicking off on this Tuesday morning of February 27th. Big thanks for tuning in wherever, however, you may be tuning in from. Coming up next hour, we'll catch up on all things Badgers. We've got a Badger Hoops game tonight. We've got Badger hockey. Big weekend in Badger hockey. The women's team getting set for their postseason run. We've got the men's team who is competing for a Big Ten championship. We'll break it all down with Mr. R.J. Cardinal coming up a little bit later on here. It is Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what's grinding your gears? You can let us know with quick text in that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line at 715-830-1912. We'll hit that up at about 8 o'clock, shortly after 8 o'clock. It is also a Raise place. Who cut and who didn't cut the mustard? So, who cut the mustard for me? I'll go through my picks, but you can, throughout the rest of the morning, you can send over your picks too. I want to see what everybody else has to say about who cut and didn't cut the mustard. Who cut the mustard? We'll start off with kind of the stud, if you will, with this one. I mentioned him a couple times, and we're going to be talking about him in the next hour. Mike Hastings, Badger men's hockey coach. The job that he has done with this team this year has been fantastic. Now, I think a lot of Badger fans were pretty excited about the hire when he came over from Minnesota State University, where he's been for over 10 years. So there was some excitement there, but I think there was also some thoughts like, okay, maybe not a quick turnaround, give it a little couple of years, kind of maybe have to rebuild it and such. No, he's got Wisconsin right now this year playing for a Big Ten championship this weekend. The job that he has done in year one has been remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. So he is my pick for the Raise place. Who cut the mustard? Who didn't cut the mustard? LeBron James. I'm going LeBron James. Why? Because this dude, okay. So it was not that long ago, about a week or so, a couple weeks ago, a few days. I'll have to get the date. Let me see if I can bring it up here, the exact date here. It was following a loss to the Memphis Grizzlies in January, so it was over a month ago. But LeBron back then said that his kid, Bronny, could play for us right now. Easy, he put in caps. Now, LeBron James, who's apparently paying attention to mock drafts, NBA mock drafts, and he's, where the mock drafts aren't really favorable for his kid, Bronny James. In fact, 2024 draft, he's not even on there. ESPN on Monday released its first 20. This is how sometimes the drafts get a little ridiculous. ESPN released its first 2025 mock draft. And you have to wonder, did they release a 2025 mock draft so they can just put Bronny James in there? But their 2025 mock draft, Bronny was listed number 39 overall after what would be a sophomore pick. So he would have to play another year in college. It's not going to be a one and done, as everybody thought. Well, apparently this annoyed LeBron James to where he tweeted, "Can you all please just let the kid be a kid and enjoy college basketball? The work and the results will ultimately do the talking no matter what he decides to do. If you all don't know, he doesn't care what a mock draft says. He just works. Earned, not given." Now, he's taking those tweets down. But, dude, you can't in one breath sit there and say your kid could help out your team, the Los Angeles Lakers, right now. You can't sit there and say he could easily, use the word easy twice, easily play for the Lakers right now. And then a month later, criticize mock drafts, a 2025 mock draft that has your kid at 39. You can't have both sides of that. Okay. Bronny's already under immense pressure because he's your kid. It was the same for Michael Jordan's kids. It's the same for Charlie Woods right now, Tiger Woods' kids. The Bronny was already under immense pressure. You put a little bit more pressure on him by saying he could play for the Lakers right now. You kind of put some pressure on him even before he went to college, saying that you want to play in the NBA with him on the same team. He's not having a great college year this year at USC. And I know he had some scary health stuff before the season started, and that should be the most important thing right now to make sure he's still okay. I'm assuming he is because he's playing. But you can't sit there. I'm sorry, LeBron. You can't sit there and criticize mock drafts and telling people that let these kids be kids and let these college basketball players be college basketball players when it was just a month ago you're saying this kid, your kid, can help out your pro team right now. No. You don't get that benefit. LeBron does not make did not make the cut or the cut of the mustard for me. Just no. All right. Rest of you can let us know. Quick note, Brian Gutekunst meets with local reporters at 7:45, according to Matt Schneidman. Matt Schneidman just tweeted out a few minutes ago. Rise and shine in Indianapolis. Brian Gutekunst meets with local reporters at 8:45 Eastern, okay, 7:45 here, and then takes the podium for everyone at 10 a.m. local time. So we'll hear from Goody later this morning. Sounds like we'll get some snippets while we're still on the air. We'll pass along anything that kind of stands out. One thing I would like to ask, I know we play this game quite a bit because we don't get the luxury of asking Goody questions or coaches questions and such. But if I could ask him a question, I would really like to know what he takes away from the combine the most. Like, what is the most beneficial thing that he takes away from the combine? And then I want a truthful answer to this. What is the most worthless thing about the combine? Like the biggest waste of time? I feel like if I were in his position, and I'm not even close, and I could be completely far off on this, but I feel like the biggest takeaway or the biggest benefit of the combine would be those interviews, those opportunities for him, for his staff to talk to these college players, to have those interviews, kind of the networking or job fair type of feeling. I feel like that would be the most beneficial or the most important part of the combine for somebody in his position. And again, maybe they value some of these workouts more than the casual observer or the fan over there, but I don't know. I feel like that is some of those workouts are just bogus and they don't mean a whole darn lot. But if you could ask Goody a question about maybe leading up to the combine, what would you kind of ask Goody at that point in time? If you could ask him something about the combine related, would it be, hey, what's the biggest thing that you take away from the combine? Or maybe it's just simply, hey, what positions are you really trying to prioritize or really maybe putting a little extra effort into? Or is there a certain position group that maybe you want to talk to some of these prospects more than another position group? Because I think we all know Green Bay's probably going to be looking at some secondary help, some safety help. Right? We kind of assume that's going to be the case. But anything else out there? I would just like to pick the brain of a general manager and get some truthful answers and maybe kind of job shadow them and get into a scenario or get into a situation where you can kind of follow them around the combine and kind of see what they really do or what's really important to them. I'm sure they look at some of the numbers. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you're going to get flooded on social media and all the internet about certain numbers and how certain teams really value, guys who run these cone drills at a sub 7 or anything like that. I'm sure there's some teams that have their go-to measurements and such, but to me, it's the numbers game, or it's the interviews game. I'd rather talk to the player, kind of get a feel for them, get a little bit of an introduction. All right. We got a couple of texts to get to here. Brewers wise, I'm excited to see Sal Frelick. This is from John. I'm excited to see Sal Frelick getting more opportunities at third base. I like that the Brewers came up with this creative idea to try to get all their bats into the lineup. Another comment here from Nick, talking a little Brewers here. I agree with you. I think that back end of the starting rotation is going to be one of the bigger storylines to follow when it comes to Brewers spring training. So up in the air right now. I hope Aaron Ashby is one of those guys, though, that can lock down a starting spot. Another Brewers take here from Matt. Matt saying about the Brewers here. Definitely interested to see how the starting rotation is going to play out this spring training. We know the top two locks of Freddie Peralta and Wade Miley, but it's so open at the back end. Could you see the Brewers maybe potentially adding another starter this offseason before the season starts? Um, Maybe. I mean, I guess never say never at that point in time. But I think right now, we looked at, or we went through the list. You got Colin Ray, you got Aaron Ashby, you got Jacob Junis. You've got a couple prospects, Mizorowski, Robert Gosser, and such. I think they're good right now of who they got in camp. Now things could change depending on injuries and all that sort of stuff. But I wouldn't completely close the door. I just feel like right now they're probably good with who they got in camp. And then I didn't even mention DL Hall in there either. DL Hall, the guy they got back in return for Corbin Burns, who they seem like they want as a starter. So, all right, we'll get back to some more of your texts, but keep it going. Hit us up 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk some more Green and Gold with Joe coming up in just a few minutes. Does your team need to make a statement on and off the field? Whether you are managing a sports team or a business team, Residence Branding Company knows that looking good matters. For custom apparel, banners, and signage, online merchandise stores, printed products, and so much more, Residence Branding Company is your one-stop shop. High quality decoration, affordable products, quick turnaround time, and top-notch customer service. Resonance Branding Company is here to help your brand resonate with your audience. Check them out at resonancebrandingcompany.com or visit their shop in Altoona today, the official swag sponsor of the program, The Morning Show, and the Man Cave podcast. Awesome people over there, Ben, Matt, the entire crew. They're also with good friends from Cabin Coffee, Joe Grabowski over there too. So you're looking for some swag or maybe looking to put together an order, check out Resonance Branding Company right here in Altoona. A couple more texts to get to here. We got with the Brewers. Definitely hope, this is from Greg, definitely hope Aaron Ashby is a part of the 5-man starting rotation. I like his ceiling. Hopefully his injury concerns are over and he can be healthy this year. Another texter here. Don't have a name, so I'm just going to call you Texter. I apologize. But Texter saying, I'm definitely intrigued to see how the back end of the starting rotation is going to work out. But it's going to be fun to watch in spring training. A couple more texts to get to here. We've got David also saying with the Brewers. David saying that definitely excited to see if Sal Frelick can be the everyday starting third baseman. We'll see how it kind of plays out, but definitely early signs look positive. All right, let's switch gears here and chat a little football here this morning. Joe, is the combine overrated?
No.
I believe it is.
How so?
The interviews are fine. I think that's most beneficial.
I totally agree.
Big men running in 40-yard dashes is overrated.
Yes.
Some of those workouts are overrated, especially since a lot of the top prospects don't even participate in the thing anymore. Overrated in terms of a fan watching it.
Yes.
I think it's overrated.
Yes. From that perspective.
Yes.
From talent evaluation, no. I think it's critical.
What would they learn more from a combine than what they, from maybe one day, than what they couldn't from a whole season?
You know, I think, and I was listening to you earlier, I think it's that opportunity to look a kid, a young man in the eyes and ask him some of those tough questions.
Mhm.
And you know, it's interesting. And both of my sons went through the recruiting process for football. And some of them, it was almost as if they were looking into my son's soul.
Mhm.
And again, both sons went through this. And we got out of the process. And I think, you know, my son, my youngest son, was very, very open and honest about where he saw himself. And I think if you can look a guy in the eye and you can get a feeling for, is he committed? What kind of kid is he? What kind of young man is he? Those types of things. I think it's critical. And
Mhm.
and
The interview process, it sounds like. Again. Yep.
absolutely. And again, there's certain drills that I look at. I'm a big fan of the 3-cone drill.
Mhm.
I think that is a true measurement of quick twitch. All right. I'm a fan of the broad jump. Explosiveness, those types of things. So, yes, seeing an offensive lineman run a 40, seeing a quarterback run a 40 really doesn't do anything for me. But
Mhm.
when I look at it and I say certain drills do translate, then yes.
Mhm.
So I agree. From a fan's perspective, overrated. From a talent evaluator's perspective, I don't think so.
Should they? One of the listeners this morning said they should wear pads doing these drills. Would you agree?
No.
Why?
You know, quick twitch is quick twitch. Going
Mhm.
back to the drills I was talking about, I think it's really one of those things where you've got to look at and you've got to say, okay, let me look at his movement. Let me look how he shifts his hips during this move or whatever the case may be. Movement's movement with pads or without. And so again, I think the 40 when you're looking at with pads or without, I think that is a difference. I think
Mhm.
that's a huge difference. I think again, movement drills, those types of things, you're going to see if a guy can he play in space, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think there is probably some merit to some positions. Again, you want to go one-on-one with an offensive lineman, defensive lineman with pads on? Absolutely, like they do at the Senior Bowl practices leading up to the game.
Right.
But I think overall, I think the format overall, and again, remember, it's because of the NFL Network that we're even seeing this.
Mhm.
There is no other network that would be carrying this.
Right.
And so the NFL Network created this hype, if you will.
Mhm.
And so, because the hype didn't, and of course, the hype for the NFL created the NFL Network.
Right.
And so it's a vicious circle. But no, I think the Senior Bowl and I think the Combine are really two of those big things that talent evaluators say. And the Packers, if you look at their track record,
Senior
especially
Bowl. Yeah.
huge.
Yep. I prefer the Senior Bowl over the other ones.
And I do
Yeah.
too.
And that doesn't help, obviously, guys who are not seniors that can't go to the Senior Bowl.
Right,
But,
right. No, so look, it's a part of the process.
Mhm.
And again, if it weren't for the NFL Network, we probably would not be having this conversation. Is it overrated?
Right.
Because at this point, all you're doing is probably going online and saying, "Oh, I want to see how somebody did," rather than sitting there and watching it.
Like for the quarterback perspective too, like part of me is like, okay, I mean, how does that benefit like the throw wise? I mean, you're going with some guys you don't know. You're not getting any pressure, that sort of stuff, or even like Wonderlic tests and all the cognitive stuff. That's proven out the window.
Yeah,
That stuff.
I agree with the quarterback drills.
Mhm.
And again, I coach quarterbacks at a much different level than obviously that level, but yeah, to see a kid with no pass rush, not reading a defense. I mean, look, you and I could look good just throwing the ball around.
Mhm.
And so, and I'm not taking anything away from you and my quarterback ability, but yeah, it's one of those things that, yeah, I would say you could get, but what do you do then?
Mhm.
What do you do with the quarterbacks?
You know what I would like to see the Combine do? Don't even invite the top prospects.
Okay.
Open it up for prospects for that back end of the rounds. For those like day 3 picks.
Okay.
I want to see some of these guys who maybe didn't get invited to the Combine get a little bit more exposure.
So, but don't you think though that when you look at visits,
Mhm.
individual club visits, that is for the latter draft choices?
It is, but then they got a cap on that too.
Right, no doubt.
So why have a cap on that?
So maybe the solution, because I like where you're going with this, is just unlimited visits. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Because I feel like there's, again, it's you're looking at maybe some of those lower prospects, D1, who don't get invited, but they probably should,
Right.
Get some more exposure that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We know the top picks already.
Right.
We know who's going in the top 10, top 15, top 20.
Right.
For the most part.
Right. It's after 20
Mhm.
that it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
Because the difference between 25 and 38 really comes down to the team,
Mhm.
really comes down to the scheme, those types of things. So yeah,
Mhm.
look, is it perfect? Absolutely not. But I think it's an opportunity. And again, going back to it, when you hear about the interviews, and I agree with you, the Wonderlic overrated,
Mhm.
gone. I mean, no one really even uses it. Any kind of a
I did
test
one
like that.
I did one on the air live last year, and I scored in the high 30s. So
Nice.
I should be Ryan Fitzpatrick right now.
Nice. That is impressive,
I'm
Captain.
just saying, if I could do it, what the hell's wrong with these other quarterbacks that stink at it? So
Well, and it's interesting because I almost do this every year, and this past weekend, of course, marked the anniversary of Miracle on Ice, and in the movie, and I made my wife watch it too for the first time. The movie Miracle, and in the movie, Herb Brooks gives a test to all of his players, and that happened in real life.
Mhm.
And Jimmy Craig didn't want to take it, et cetera, et cetera. And Herb's answer was, "Well, you just took it by not taking it. You told me a lot by not taking it." And I think that's probably how the NFL looks at these things. Look, and I think now it used to be if you don't work out at the combine, that was a negative.
Mhm.
I think now it's expected, especially from some of the top picks.
Right.
So I think
especially
again,
quarterbacks.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, going back to it, what are you going to gain seeing Caleb Williams throwing the ball around with no defense, with no coverage, with nothing there,
Mhm.
and just taking his time and throwing pretty deep balls?
Mhm.
And so you're not going to gain anything from that. But again, I think the opportunity to meet with these people, meet with the players, the opportunity to again, like I said, sit across from a guy and look in his eye and say, what's inside of him.
It's a job interview.
Absolutely.
You know, it's networking or whatever. Like, I feel like, too, if they were to make some of these drills position specific, it would be a little bit more beneficial, too.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I mean, 40 maybe has a case for this, you know, corners and,
Corners and wide
receivers
Right,
and all that.
right.
You know, the cone drills and such, you know, yeah, there's certain drills that I think are more appropriate for like, I don't care about a vertical jump for a quarterback. You know,
Totally
that
agree.
stuff.
I
You
totally
know,
agree.
I
with
think
you.
that stuff's a waste of time.
Right. I
that
agree.
point.
And you know, when you look at it too, look, these talent evaluators, I don't care if you're a director of college scouting, a GM, whoever you are, you already have enough tape on your guys.
Mhm.
This either validates or it eliminates, because it validates what you've already seen in game film, or wow, I didn't know that guy was 5'9". You know, rather, because again, you look at a couple of interesting facts. The Packers have drafted one player in their history 321 or over, and that was Sean Ryan.
Mhm.
The Packers, over the last several years with Ted Thompson and Brian Gutekunst, have a certain size cornerback. And so, like I said, it validates what you saw on tape, or it eliminates a player because, wow, he's running a 4.7 or he's doing this. So I do think you got to look at this as an ingredient in the soup.
Mhm.
If you're relying on the combine as a talent evaluator, you're screwed.
Mhm.
If this is, I think, again, it's okay. What we saw on tape is validated. Let's now have the conversation with the kid.
Right. Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that. I would agree with you on that. I just, to me, it's like for the top prospects, what's the point? Besides the interviews.
Besides the interviews.
Besides the interviews.
Right.
You
And
know?
and again, I don't hold anything back against any kid now that doesn't want to participate,
Mhm.
that's been invited to the combine. It's just kind of, you know, you just don't, there's just no reason at that point to do it, but be there, shake hands, have the interviews, have that look-see into what's inside the guy. Because unless you can BS, which a lot of guys can, I get it.
Mhm.
Unless you can BS,
We've
you're,
seen it in the movie Draft Day, by the
we
way.
did see it.
No.
You know what? I'm still
Who returned the $100 bill?
you know, and again, I still wanted to be invited to the birthday party because I was in Madison at that time. So, you know,
Right.
I was wondering where my birthday invite was for his party.
Bo
But
Callahan.
Bo
yeah.
Callahan, absolutely. And you know what? By the way, remember the coach of the Badgers in that
Oh
movie?
yeah, Sam Elliott. Oh yeah,
I would run through a wall if Sam Elliott was my coach, man.
I would too.
I mean, I just think that would be pretty incredible. But you know, the combine for me kind of sets up, okay, because March 13th, I believe, starts the new NFL season. And so we are now essentially into the new NFL season.
Mhm.
So the combine for me kind of is that first thing. So I do look forward to it. And I do refer back to it when I'm looking at game film and putting together my one Packer mock. And so I look back to it, validating, eliminating those types of things.
Mhm. Packers yesterday also Rashawn Gary restructuring, kicking the can down the road a little bit.
With no extra avoidable years,
Yep.
which was interesting.
This comes on the heels of the NFL increasing the salary cap, wide margin, about $30 million more previous to last year's. We knew it was going to go up, but it surprised a lot of people. It went up that high. Obviously, they're catching up from COVID yet, and I think they've caught up at that certain point in time. Now, maybe for some fans, they view this as an opportunity for teams to spend a little bit more. I've seen other thoughts. Could it allow teams, maybe like a Green Bay, to just get healthier with their cap situation, and maybe they don't have to continue to kick the can down the road, if you will. Packers do have a lot of cap space starting next year,
Right.
on there. How do you view this situation where, okay, they got a little bit more money than they expected? What do you think that they're going to use it to maybe bring in more free agents, to get healthier with the cap situation? And maybe what does the Rashawn Gary thing kind of tell you? Does that change your perspective a little bit?
I'll tell you what changes the perspective this year. What happened last year?
Mhm.
Because this team made a big jump last year, an unexpected big jump. I don't think 1265 expected a playoff team last year. I'm just going to go out there, and if they did, kudos to them. So now you're a playoff team. Now you're basically saying, okay, maybe we are one or two guys away from competing. And so you look at, and again, you talked about it earlier, the one big black hole for the Green Bay Packers right now is that safety position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a position that I don't like going into a season with two rookie starters. It's one of those positions I feel very uncomfortable with if you've got two guys who are rookies coming in there starting. So I like a veteran back there. So I think Green Bay, I think both. I think that to answer your question, they try to get healthier. That's why, okay, we're going to restructure Rashawn Gary without any additional voidable years.
Mm-hmm.
So now dead caps start going away. So I think they're saying, let's restructure where we can. I think Preston Smith is another restructure. Obviously, the elephant in the room is Bakhtiari.
And that's a huge one.
That's a huge one.
That, I mean, you go from like what, 8 million available to almost 30 some $1 million available.
Right.
So
I mean, and again, will you still take a dead cap hit from Bakhtiari?
Mhm.
Yes. But you got rid of Rodgers' dead cap last year by doing what you did. If you got Bakhtiari this year, and then really 2025 is, wow, we are in a really good place in 2025. Look,
Mhm.
I think Goody makes a move for a safety. If I were Brian Gutekunst, I would say, okay, we've got a lot of draft capital, so I can swing and miss on a safety because I can double down. I can get a guy in the first round and the third round,
Mhm.
and so I can double down in that type of situation. But I think the free agency class for safeties is actually very good. And so I think it's one of those things that, in all honesty, if I were looking at it from that standpoint, I mean, you got Kyle Duggar out there from New England, and you got Cameron Curl from Washington. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to be gone, or
Yeah.
I think he's going to be franchised. My favorite though is Xavier McKinney with the New York Giants. And you look at his coverage grades from a PFF standpoint. And so he really is my favorite free agent that I'm looking at. And if Green Bay goes out and gets one, and it's that position, then I think Goody's done. Maybe you fill in
Mhm.
later on, and you get a couple of guys, and maybe a couple of guys who are familiar with the system or played in the system before that Hafley's going to be bringing in, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think you swing for the fences with that safety position.
Mhm.
And I think that, and again, I go back to last year. I don't think Green Bay 1265 expected them to be a playoff team. And really, and again, one field goal, I think, away from advancing to the NFC Championship.
Mhm.
So I think you look at it now, you say, okay, where's the hole? And especially with this defense, because that one safety high is really going to be a critical piece of the puzzle. And if you can fill that one, because again, if you listen to Hafley, what he said about what he wants in that safety,
Mhm.
I mean, he painted pretty much utopian picture of a safety at that point. But one of the biggest things I heard was a guy that could put guys in the right position.
Communication. You talked about that quite a bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
so you're not going to get that with a rookie. Now going back to it, do they still make an effort to re-sign Darnell Savage Jr.? Now, if they do, I think he's a slot cornerback. I don't think he's a safety. If you look at his Maryland tape, he was more of a slot cornerback than he was a safety there. So because that's another position you got to look at, because Keyshawn Nixon last year played the slot role
Mhm.
or the star role in the Joe Barry defense. And so what are you going to do with that third cornerback, that inside slot guy? So yeah, I think what the Rashawn Gary move said to me is that Goody is going to make enough room to make a move
Mhm.
without sacrificing. I mean, look, there's no this isn't the Aaron Rodgers where we're all in for this year.
We're not going to have those Darius Preston, Adrian
No.
Amos, and Billy Turner signings all in one day.
No,
Yeah.
no, we are not. We are. I think, and I think they make a move early, and I think then they're done, and they'll let the dust settle, and then see what's left after that.
Mhm. No, I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, you listened to Jeff Hafley's presser last week, kind of got the sense of what he really wants
Yeah.
with this. I mean, first of all, fans are now just going to use the term of post safety and know what that means. Every
Again, it's
single
the
time.
star last year
Yeah,
under Joe Barry. Yeah.
Everybody's going to use the term post safety, and they're like, "Well, what is a post safety?" Yeah, it's like
He's the
Seinfeld.
guy.
Yeah, it's like Seinfeld when they debate what's a write off.
Right.
Do you know what a write off is? well, do you? Sort of thing. So, but it's clearly obvious, and he's a defensive backs coach by trade, so he knows this.
He knows this.
Yeah. So, by the way, with Jeff Hafley's presser, obviously it's a lot of talk, but did you like what you heard mostly from him?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, he said all the right things.
Mhm.
If you checked off what a Packer fan wanted to hear, he basically, okay, check. Press coverage, okay, check. We're gonna get pressure with 4-man fronts, check.
Yep. Got to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could have won that pressure with Packer fans.
Mhm.
And my defensive coordinator resume is certainly not as impressive as Hafley. So, it's one of those things that he said all the right things, and you don't know what he said in the interview with LaFleur,
right?
But obviously, he said all the right things to LaFleur as well. So, I'm excited. Packers again adding to the staff, and I think now you're seeing kind of the finishing touches being. You're getting some of the assistant quality control guys coming in now. And so I think LaFleur has his team. I mean, he basically said Avengers assemble, and now he's moving forward with these guys as a coaching staff.
Seems like a more energetic coaching staff,
no,
would you
no
say?
question.
Especially when you get Anthony Campanelli coming over.
Well, I mean, look, LaFleur's quote about hot piss.
Mhm.
I mean, this defense, they've got it all over the place. At least the coaching staff, and at least what they're saying and their track records and that type of thing. So I think. Look, we don't know until game 1.
Right.
We don't know until game 8. We don't know what this defense is going to look like.
Mhm.
Everything he said, and the thing I like about this, and you and I have had this conversation off mic and on mic over the last couple of years. I don't know what it was, what Goody saw in some guys when he was drafting guys, but he loved to draft 4-3 defensive linemen and turn them into outside backers. And so putting their hand in the dirt. And so when you look at the personnel, I think Quay Walker was built to be a weak side linebacker in a 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas Van Ness built to be a hand in the dirt kind of guy. So the transition to the 4-3 is not going to be that hard, except that post safety position. But yeah, I think right now Packer fans have a legitimate reason to be optimistic that the right hire was made,
Mm-hmm.
the right defense is in place for these players, and it's only up from there.
I think the one thing that really stood out to me from his presser was he mentioned it a few times, but something we've always talked about, putting players in a position to succeed.
Absolutely.
Not fitting square pegs into a round hole. And I think that's where, him and Goody got to be on that same page too of what this vision of this defense is going to be.
Oh, no doubt.
Because, even going back to Ted Thompson, Nick Perry.
Right.
Was he an outside? Probably not.
No.
Not a 3-4 outside linebacker.
No, not at all.
Those type of guys. Dayton Jones, what was he really?
Well, and you look at the secondary misses of the previous coaches. Micah Hyde, they tried to play him at slot cornerback. Guy was a safety. Casey Hayward. And that's what worries me about Savage, getting back to that, is you got a guy that checks all the boxes. And when you look at his PFF grade, and I know that that's not everything, under Pettin versus under Joe Barry, was he being misused under Joe Barry? Mm-hmm. And so that's a really big time question. But yeah, again, remains to be seen the product on the field. But right now, everything that's being said, when you look at track records of these coaches, you're like, yeah, I like what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time talking safety. Linebacker now 4-3. If you got Quay Walker as a weak side, McDuffie maybe as the middle.
Yep.
Do they need that strong side, or do they keep Devondre Campbell? Can he play that?
No.
Is that a rookie that they can bring in?
I think I think a strong side backer is a guy that can play as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a position. When we talked about safety, I don't like that, especially in this defense at the post safety. I think you can play a strong side backer, especially, and McDuffie, of course, knows Hafley very well. Hafley knows McDuffie.
Well, and you kind of wonder, because their assistant coach that they got that was announced yesterday by Aaron Wilson was the co-defensive coordinator and former linebackers coach at Boston College, where
Isaiah
McDuffie's
McDuffie. So I think, look, and I think is McDuffie an all-pro? No.
Right.
He's an undersized for a Mike. There's just no doubt about that. But is he reliable? Is he smart? Is he a guy that can call a defense? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Quay Walker playing in space on the weak side, unencumbered by, a tight end or whatever the case may be, I think you're going to see him blitzing a lot more. I think you're going to see him moving around a lot more. So, yes, I think you can start a Sam. I think a guy who played in college over the tight end, I think is used to playing in that type of a situation. And I don't think it's one of those things where you're not reading a lot. Look, you're shedding. Your job is to shed at that Sam position and also chip that line or that tight end. And so if you've got that guy, and again, you've got two guys next to you where you've got some veteran experience now with Quay Walker and with Isaiah McDuffie. So yes, another position you need to find either in this draft or via free agency. And again, that could be one of those signings that, okay, we got the safety. Now we're going to go out and get that Sam backer.
Yeah. Is there one position, before I let you go here, where you feel like whether it's a draft or free agency that maybe they can kind of ignore? They don't need to address at all.
Tight end.
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
Yeah.
Or wide receiver that we touched on last week.
Again, look, the right wide receiver, it wouldn't surprise me in the third round if Goody snaps up a wide receiver. It wouldn't. But
that's a page out of the Ted Thompson book there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look who Goody learned under. And so, yeah, I think when you've got Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Ben Sims, probably Tyler Davis coming back on an inexpensive prove-it kind of year after being injured contract. I don't see Josiah DeGuara coming back, but they got Henry Pearson. So they really don't even need DeGuara. So I think at that point, the tight end position, you're going to bring a guy, probably an undrafted free agent or two, and you're going to see what somebody can do to make the bottom end of the roster.
Do you think we've been talking about H-back for the last few years. You look at San Francisco and you even look at Miami, how they utilize a fullback H-back, and we thought that was going to be DeGuara, and it really hasn't played out. Is that because maybe LaFleur doesn't want to utilize that, or is it just because they haven't found that player? And is that a need or something they should address this offseason?
You know what? Is it a need? No. I think they thought they were getting that in DeGuara. I thought, okay, Kyle Juszczyk, we're gonna, we're gonna have him number 2 over here in Green Bay, and we're gonna run this San Francisco offense. They just didn't have him, and so I don't think it's a position you say we need. Is it if you find the right guy,
more of a luxury maybe?
Yeah. I would make it. Look, would I draft an H-back? No. I think, and this is, all the former H-backs out there are gonna, scoff at me about this, but I think they're easy to find. I mean, it's kind of a mental approach playing that position. You've got to be a blocker first and foremost. You got to block in space. So besides that, yeah, you got to catch the ball. I get it. I get all those things. But really, I'm looking for an H-back to block in space. That's the number one attribute, and that's a want. That's not necessarily a wow. He's the most talented guy out there. Blocking in space is all about want and desire. It's getting moving quickly, and getting between a guy and the ball carrier and moving them out of the way. That's a want, and you can find those guys. I think you can find those guys. So would I?
A lot of former Badger fullbacks out there that could be doing that.
Doing that. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that was the Badger offense, pre-Longo. And so I think if there's a guy in that 5th round that fits the mold, yeah, you take a flyer on him. But again, the biggest attribute for me in that position is blocking space.
Jerry Springer, final thoughts before I let you go.
Jerry Springer, final thoughts. I thought your combine discussion before I jumped on was really good. And again, I thought the question when posed, is it overrated for the fans? 100%. 100%. Is it overrated from a talent evaluator standpoint? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And so I am excited.
Do you think really quick coaches are finding it? Because you're seeing more coaches not go. Matt LaFleur's not going. Robert Saleh's not going. More coaches are not going. Do you feel like they find it for their perspective?
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. Look, Goody's there. He's probably talking right now. I heard you say it. Yep. 7:45. Matt Steinman said that?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
if you're a GM and not going, then you're an idiot.
Well, yeah, that's, if LaFleur is 100% and he and Goody are locked in arms,
Mm-hmm.
then why does he need to go?
Yeah, I think there's different. Like Andy Reid's there. Well, Andy Reid's got a little more say on the roster. And
Yeah,
that, so.
yeah, but LaFleur at this point doesn't.
Right.
There's a clear line of demarcation between the two. So
Mm-hmm.
LaFleur's there. It's all good. And again, you said Robert Saleh. Well, that's Joe Douglas's team. The brilliant general manager, and I'm using that in quotation marks.
I know who you're referring to.
The brilliant general manager there.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I wouldn't even say it's overrated for coaches. It's not necessary if
That's
you're
probably
in
a better
that
way.
structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. So, all right, Joe, appreciate it, man.
Hey, dude, always good. And hey, we talked about it via text.
Yeah.
Looks like a couple of weeks we're actually going to get together for some scotch.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, HH, did you say?
Happy hour.
Oh, I was like, is this a brand?
Who Hut. The old Who Hut.
I
days.
actually Googled, like, there is a scotch. I'm like, oh, this must be Joe's favorite scotch. It's like HH. I was like, okay.
No, happy hour.
Happy
So,
okay.
so something like a 3 or 4 o'clock.
Got it. Okay, now that makes more sense.
I had you perplexed for a couple of days.
You did. I'm like trying to Google it and trying to do some research on it. Like, all right. Didn't know what kind we were getting into.
Well, and there are a lot of establishments that are proud sponsors of the Dan Kasper Show. So pick one that needs a little love and attention. We will go there and spend some money.
Well, I know Dave from Ray's Place just texted in here too. So
did he?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Shout out to Dave.
Let's do it.
He wants to know if Dante DiVincenzo can play safety for the Pack. He tackles very well.
He does tackle very well. I got to tell you, honestly, I would love Dante DiVincenzo on the Bucs right now.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I know.
Right?
I
mean, there's
Bring in the Villanova product over here.
That guy was underrated. And again, I know you got to move pieces to get pieces, but that's a guy that probably you don't go out and get Pat Beverly if you got Dante DiVincenzo.
Yep, I agree.
So
I would agree.
So all right. Is it Rays?
Yep.
All right, we're going to Rays.
All right. Sounds
good.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Take care.
We got to take a quick break, and we'll be back, well, in a couple minutes to finish up the second hour after these few words. There you go. That's the next segment. We already got the shot clock music. So I'll tell you what, we got another break. We got the news updates coming up here. And then after that, we'll do a little Grind My Gears Tuesday. And then we'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal. Another quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Third and final hour kicking off right now. Appreciate you tuning in on this Tuesday morning of February 27th. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll talk some Badgers. Lots to talk about on the Badger side of things with RJ Carnell. We got a Badger game tonight. Basketball taking on Indiana. Just 4 more games left of the regular season. We've got women's hockey starting their postseason run. And then Badger men's hockey playing for Big Ten championship this week. And Mike Hastings, he was my pick for Who Cut the Mustard, brought to you by Ray's Place. The job he has done this year, flipping fantastic. So if you got any picks for who cut and didn't cut the mustard, hit us up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Want to put this on your calendars here. Coming up on March 28th, we will be over at our good friends Hy-Vee and Eau Claire for opening day party. Brew Crew will be opening up their season against the Mets over there. But we're just going to have a little get-together, have a little fun with opening day. So if you got nothing planned on 20th, I believe that's even spring break week for the Eau Claire schools and such, at least. I think so, yeah, because I think Hutsy has that week off. But maybe some teachers or maybe you are taking the week off and you're going to be hanging around, hang out with us. We'll be there around 11:30 game times shortly after noon and such. So, again, put that on your calendar, March 28th. We'll have an opening day party. And also, we're going to be hitting the road here coming soon. Going to be doing some mobile man cave podcast recordings leading up to the draft. Kind of like having a draft while talking with a draft. You know what I mean? So we're going to be hitting up some locales and doing some remote podcasts and draft theme podcasts coming. We'll reveal that schedule coming up here and finalizing some stuff and locations and all that good ones out there. So look forward for that, or look for that to come down the wire. Let's do a little grind my gears. It is a Tuesday. Let's do a little grind my gears here. I've got a few of you who texted in a little bit earlier for grind my gears. This one is from Jeff, not living a dream Jeff. Another Jeff here saying what grinds my gears is the constant media attention to the underwear Olympics. I could care less with a person who runs a 40-yard dash or who bench presses the most. Another one here. This one is from David. David is saying what grinds my gears is LeBron James. You mentioned him as your person who didn't cut the mustard. I will mention him as my grind my gears. You can't tout your kid and pipe him up over these last, or I think that's what they pump him up over these last few years, and then try to walk back those comments and tell everybody, let him be a college basketball player. LeBron James grinds my gears. We got another one here. What grinds my gears is the NBA overall. I can't stand watching a lot of these games and just the lackluster effort that seems to be the first 3 quarters of the game. Okay. A little bit of a different route there, but hey, that's what's grinding your gears. So, got any more? Let us know. Okay, my grind my gears. I was going back and forth on a couple of them. LeBron was one of them too, but I put him on the didn't cut the mustard part over there. But I think what's grinding my gears here. I might go with mock drafts. Mock drafts, I get it. I look at them. Okay, I'm guilty. I look at them, but I think mock drafts that come out and like the 2025 mock draft already. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. It's annoying, and I get it. It's content. It's clickbait. It's all that stuff. But I mean, for crying out loud, you got a 2025 NBA mock draft before we even have the 2024 draft coming at you, and it's strictly just because Bronny James is added on there, so everybody wants to know where Bronny James is. But even like the NFL mock drafts, I love the draft. It's one of my favorite, if not the favorite events throughout the whole thing. But sometimes we get a little carried away with mock drafts, and a lot can change after free agency and such. So Let's tone it down a little bit. Let's tone it down on the mocks. And then you got guys that come out with like 15 different versions of their mock draft. 15. How about a mock draft of integrity, people? Ugh. Cardinals won't sign Jordan Montgomery. Illini, Greg. Is that your grind my gears there? Illini, Greg? I'm assuming. But all right. If you got any more, let me know. We got Bucks and Badgers in action tonight. Bucks taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets actually playing a little bit better post All-Star break. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. But again, this is a opponent that where the Bucks faced them 2 times earlier this season and just dominated them. Bucks coming off of 2 nice wins post All-Star break here. I want to see them wipe the floor with the Hornets tonight. Because this has been a frustration, I think, for many Bucks fans throughout this season. It's something that a lot of you have talked about. Is like this Bucks team, for some reason, plays down to their competition. Maybe not every time, but a lot of times it seems like no perfect example is the game before the All-Star break against Memphis, where Memphis had how many guys missing? You had guys on 10-day contracts in your starting lineup. Bucks had Giannis and Dame, their top 2 guys out on the floor, and you lose. You lose. You had no reason to lose that game. That's the example where you have a lot of Bucks fans complaining or maybe griping or grinding their gears about that. Does this team tend to play down to their competition? I don't want to see that tonight. I want to see them wipe the floor with the Hornets. I know they're playing a little bit better, but come on, this is you are a team. You're a Bucks team that has championship goals, championship aspirations. Hornets, no. They won't be sniffing the postseason. Take care of business, pick up the W at home, and then pick up the next W against them on Thursday. These are the games now in the second half you can't lose. No, you can't. Go out there and announce your presence with authority and take care of business. And I get it. There's going to be some games that are going to be like, what? How did you lose that one? It'll happen. But not now. Not right now. Go out there and get it done. Badgers tonight taking on Indiana. We'll kind of break that down a little bit more here with RJ. But Indiana, bottom 3 in conference, playing the Big Ten Conference. But as Wisconsin has so eloquently shown us in the last few weeks here, doesn't seem to matter where some of these teams are at in conference play because they give the Badgers fits and maybe even sometimes pick up a W. Michigan. So we'll preview that coming up here in just a little bit. But we do have the latest rankings, AP poll rankings. Badgers did not climb into the top 25. In fact, they kind of fell down a little bit further outside the others receiving votes here. But they only just played the one game last week. So if we go BYU's up next, Texas Tech, TCU, Clemson, Wake Forest, and then it's Wisconsin. Marquette did move up in the rankings. They moved up a couple spots to the to the fifth spot. Houston is your new number 1 team. Purdue's number 2. UConn dropped a couple spots to number 3. Tennessee moved up to the 4th spot. Arizona's at 6. Kansas 7. Iowa State 8. North Carolina 9. Duke 10 to round out the top 10. Illinois coming in at number 13. So still, Wisconsin is technically the 3rd highest ranked Big Ten team. Next closest one here would be Nebraska, it looks like. Yeah, Nebraska. All right. Northwestern's got a vote on there too. But RJ's talked about that kind of magic number. Get to 20 wins. Your final 4 games are Indiana, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue. Where are those 2 wins going to come? Better come against Rutgers and tonight against Indiana for sure. I like them too. I mean, obviously, I'd love them to win all all floor. But 3 out of 4 I'd be okay with too. I'd be satisfied with that. Brewers also got a spring training game, another spring training game this afternoon, 2:10. They're going to be going up against the Angels. Yesterday, Brewers falling to the Reds 8-3. If that's something you're paying attention to in terms of standings or wins or losses, which I don't know why you would, but hey, some people do. But yesterday, again, we saw Sal Frelick getting a start at third base. I'm all for it. Keep it coming. Keep Sal Frelick getting more reps over at third base. Why not? Let's go. Let's keep this going. Jackson Cheerio got some more at bats yesterday as well. So we'll see what the lineup kind of looks like later on today. Gasser, who pitched an inning yesterday for the Crew too. We were talking quite a bit about the back end of that starting rotation. How is it all going to play out outside of Freddie Peralta, Wade Miley, and that? But I mean, these are the things I'm paying attention to at least right now in the early parts of spring training. Is Sal Frelick's reps at third base, how Jackson Cheerio is hitting the ball, back end of that starting rotation for the Crew. Those are my top 3 items I'm kind of looking at right now. So, and the pitching thing too, it's kind of, you got Freddie Peralta and Wade Miley, who whenever they get some reps in there, they might be working on some new pitches or working on some things, so maybe their numbers are a little inflated. But for guys who are trying to win a job, win a spot in that rotation, they may be approaching spring training a little bit differently. Just a little bit differently. So, couple of you had chimed in a little bit earlier, on the texting line about you're really looking forward, or I should say, really paying attention to how that back end of that rotation is going to play out. A couple of you have mentioned that you hope Aaron Ashby's healthy to where he could win a starting rotation or win a spot on that starting rotation. I agree with you. I hope Aaron Ashby is healthy and he can get back, because he was last year entering spring training last year, kind of trending upward. He was one of those guys that got that contract. You extend him for a few years, lower money, a little bit of an unknown yet, but you give him that extension. You hope that it's going to become a bargain. Got hurt last year. We didn't get to see that. So I hope he's healthy, and I hope he wins one of those spots. And he becomes that next Brewers pitcher that kind of followed the same path of a Freddie Peralta, a Brandon Woodruff, and a Corbin Burns even. So I hope he goes out there, and I hope he shines, and I hope he wins one of those starting spots for the Crew. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal. Lots to catch up on. We'll talk some hockey. We'll talk some hoops after these few words.
In a car with a cracked windshield or other damaged auto glass can be dangerous. Their skilled experts can help, and they frequently offer same-day service, whether you need car window replacement or RV windshield repair. To schedule an appointment or get a free estimate, call 715-229-9754 or go to postglassandmirror.com.
Baseball season is here, so let's go to a game together. Get on the bus with us as we head to opening day in Milwaukee as Milwaukee takes on Minnesota Tuesday, April 2nd. It's an early border battle between these two rival teams that you won't want to miss out on. Your ticket includes round-trip motor coach transportation, a tailgate party from Premier Catering, and a game ticket on the Johnsonville party deck that includes food and beverages. Just visit wiscotrips.com to reserve your ticket before they're gone. Let's play ball.
The latest sports news, scores, opinion, and commentary. If that's not enough, you should seek professional help. The Dan Kasper Show.
It's tax season, so while you may be a little frustrated trying to track down all those W-2s that are coming in the mail or through your email, and whether you're going to try to file yourself or have someone do it for you, think about the prize at the end of it all, the light at the end of the tunnel, the return. It's that tax return, some extra coin in your pocket. Now, what should you do with that extra cash? How about finally changing out that old floor in your home and getting some new luxurious carpet or vinyl planks from Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire? Whatever style of flooring you're looking for, or maybe you're not sure what style you want yet, team at Carpet City Flooring Center is waiting to help you find that perfect new floor for your space. And you can just go to their Facebook page too, because they've been posting up some of their latest projects, and boy, do they look amazing. So what the heck are you waiting for? Once you get your taxes done, go visit Carpet City Flooring Center at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue and chat with one of their awesome team members. They'll help you find that new floor, and that'll work great in your budget and work perfectly in your home. All right, let's talk some Badgers here with Mr. RJ Cardinal after I just spilled water all over the place. Again, it's a tradition unlike any other in the studio. I either spill coffee on my lap or spill water over electronics here. I don't know why they allow me to do this, but RJ, how you doing, man?
Apparently better than you.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for like the computer to fry now or something like that. So that I'm sure the engineers are going to love me later today.
So we know if my call drops, it's not my fault.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, man. So, I want to start actually with hockey, RJ, because this Badger,
which one?
Yeah, the men's team, they got a shot to win the Big Ten championship this weekend, man. Mike Hastings, first year as head coach. I know you and I have talked about it a little bit off and on, but I mean, this wasn't the expectation at the beginning of the year, was it? To be, or at least from a fan standpoint, that we potentially could win the Big Ten championship first year under Mike Hastings?
No, it wasn't the expectation, especially where we saw where the program was, even with the talent that was getting brought in. It was, we need to try to just make ourselves respectable again. And I guess looking at the kind of turnarounds and records Mike Hastings has had at every stop he's made as a head coach, probably should have expected something a little more special than just, hey, let's have a winning record. But it's still one of those, actually watching games and see, like I said, there was talent here. And it was just, what do we need to do to try to make this better? And in talking to some former Badgers, it was accountability was needed. It wasn't necessarily recruiting or anything like that. Accountability on ice and off of it. And apparently that came from talking to players and current players and guys who had just left the program, as well as some, bygone players who had observed some things. So, it seems accountability was the key here, and not just the talent on the ice. So, big turnaround and kids buying into what they were hearing, and not just because it was a new voice, but his record and his and his accomplishments speak for themselves as a head coach, not only in the USHL and the NCAA.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think has been the big reason for this turnaround? And it sounds like from your conversations, was simply just accountability at this point.
Yeah, the big thing was people being treated the same, whether they were going to go be a first round draft pick or drafted at all, to being one of those glue guys that sticks around for 4 years and ends up being an older freshman, and might possibly need 3 to 4 years to get recognized and drafted, or just need to be here 3 to 4 years just to continue a hockey career and be still good enough to compete, and not necessarily end up at a school that might not be on par with some of the recruits that Wisconsin has had in the past, because there has been a good mix of 4-year guys and NHL talent here at Wisconsin that has really made things work in the past. And it sounds like there was more of a focus on the talent, and then treating that talent differently in recent years, without getting too much into it and without asking too many questions of the people who like talking to me.
So, RJ, the last time this team faced Michigan State was back in middle of November, and they lost both those games. I mean, it was 2-4 and 2-3 there. But how different do you think, or maybe they're not that different, how different do you think this Badger team is now as they get set to face this Michigan State team?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how different we're going to see this. It's still a team that went on the road and got swept by Ohio State, and then last weekend you won 6-0, 3-2. And thankfully Ohio State helped us out last week in split with Michigan State, to help set up a very pivotal series that will determine the conference champion. Wisconsin needs a sweep, a regulation sweeps, to have that happen. So need a win Friday night just to make Saturday night important for that, and possibly get if you do that, a regulation sweep weekend, you will be the conference champ and get that first round bye. And I'm not too sure anything has changed. The attitude of this team, especially who knows what happened on that trip to Ohio State. They just didn't look like they were ready to play. Sounds bad. It looked like they were just going through the motions. Like they were there and they were going to win. And it didn't happen. So it was good to see the breakout, playing Penn State on the road and winning 6-0, and then gutting one out and winning 3-2 in overtime to get 5 points, where 6 would have been nice. But then again, your weekend at Ohio State, it would have been nice to even get points out of that, because right now you could be tied or have the lead in this conference championship, and hopefully you just have to look back at it now and say what if, but it should have been a sweep in that Ohio State weekend, and you'd be the one who's up defending your home ice, and you'd have one in the bag to play with here, rather than having to get the sweep at home and have your first conference championship regular season at home since 1990. And
wow.
Wisconsin, for what they are I'd say they're a blue blood program when you've won 6 national championships. They've only won 4 regular season titles since the modern era has come back in the early 60s. So, I think it's 13 tournament championships over that time period as well. And yet it's a team that has 6 national championships and more than 13 NCAA appearances. So, historically, that just shows you how good this program has been, and where they should strive to be. Because, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was rarely a season where they were not either in consideration and like one of the first teams out of the tournament, or in the tournament, where since the turn to the 2010s, and even in the early 2000s, they were still in that conversation. But yeah, since the 2010s have turned, it hasn't been good for this team to be even in consideration for some of those tournaments. So I think it's one of those, regardless of what happens the rest of the way, Wisconsin gets at least at-large berth to the NCAA tournament this year, especially when you're the number 4 team in the nation in the RPI or the pairwise. In the pairwise, you're number 3 in the nation. I think I saw yesterday. So yeah, there's a lot riding on this weekend, and I'm not sure the stylistics of either of these teams has changed. You just have to defend that home ice and grit these out more than you did on the road against Michigan State in mid-November.
Man, I mean, Chris McIntosh, for his hires that he's made. Luke Fickell, I know they maybe didn't have the year that a lot of people expected, but I think a lot of people are still high on the Luke Fickell hire, obviously, after just 1 year. Mike Hastings and the job he has done. Depending on what happens with this Badger men's basketball team, could you see more fans saying, hey, McIntosh knows how to hire a coach? Maybe we need to let him find a men's Badger basketball coach, a new one? Could you see fans kind of maybe going that route depending on what happens at the end of this year?
I mean, we've seen fans say get rid of Greg Gard since he was hired. So I still think there'll be a voice of get rid of him. I still think this season is a season that has earned him at least one more year, and we'll see what happens next season. But there is a scenario here where it can turn right into go have him find the next Mike Hastings for basketball in terms of that. And we talked about it a little last week where you got Lamont Paris, who's doing pretty darn good things in the SEC. Would he want to return to Wisconsin? And it's things like that. So, I mean, there are scenarios where, yeah, sure, it could turn into that. There's people talking about maybe the assistant coaches he has around him right now aren't the best talent developers, so maybe some staff changes need to be made. Who knows what's going to happen here in terms of some of the things in a postseason meeting that McIntosh says needs to happen for him to keep his job. And I still think it's a one more year, see what happens next year, because you do have some talent coming in. He has now shown, Greg Gard has, he can pull in talent via the portal. And it's just a matter of, can we kind of maybe replace some more people? And because there are still some minutes that are here that I think most people would agree people don't need to be getting minutes. And we're starting to see that bench get short to the guys that will be playing come tournament time. So yeah, we'll see through the rest of the season here. I mean, what you got? 4 more games? 5 more games?
4 more games, yeah.
Yeah, and you're on the road for 2 and at home for 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because we play today against Indiana, who's on a 4-game losing streak, so that means they're going to play their best game ever.
I was going to say, does that
a
matter?
Run for our money.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you played. Rutgers was on a 4-game losing streak, I think, when we lost to them by 22. So, and that one was on the road. Michigan was on a losing streak, and we lost to them on the road. It was one of those. I think Nebraska might have been on a bit of a losing streak when we lost to them too. So, like, on the road, Wisconsin is just a totally different animal that you'd like to see them play well on the road, and they don't.
Right.
So, it's another one, like I said last week, I'm picking Wisconsin to win, but maybe take Indiana in the points tonight.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, okay, they're bottom 3 in the conference, but does that even matter at this point, the way Wisconsin basketball has been playing? Michigan's at the bottom, lost to Michigan.
Yeah.
Ohio State's over there too, and Rutgers is down there too. That stuff doesn't even matter to me at this point. Like, I feel like it's going to be a lot closer than what it should be.
Yeah. I mean, your losses to the bottom 7 in the conference.
Golly.
You've lost to Penn State, you lost to Iowa. I mean, you also beat Iowa. You beat Maryland at least. Lost to Rutgers. Lost to Ohio State gave you a run, but you ended up beating them twice, and then you lost to Michigan. And it's stop playing down to your competition. I don't understand. It's been a Wisconsin problem forever. You're in third. With a win, you stay in third, and separate yourself a little more from Northwestern. And then your next three, you're still gonna have. You got Illinois coming on Saturday, which, by the way, we're gonna have the old Wisconsin three-step with that game at noon, followed by the women's hockey home playoff series against St. Thomas at 4, and the men's hockey game, which is on BTN Plus rather than being on BTN, getting replaced by the teams going for third place this weekend. Oh, and the two teams in last place in hockey are on TV over Michigan State and Wisconsin. So, maybe get on the social medias and get at BTN and the Big Ten general and say, hey, how about we get a flip here?
Oh, I saw
but
you
they
already
probably
do
won't.
that. I saw you do that.
Oh yeah,
already.
no, absolutely. But I bet they would rather have people sign up for BTN Plus and make money that way than try to grow the sport, which is their goal, to have more teams in the Big Ten have college hockey programs, which they've flat out said, but yet don't put them on TV. Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's going to be an important 2 games here, and especially on the road, you need a win because Illinois not going to come in and just lay down for you. Then you got a Rutgers team you lost by 22 to, who probably will have a little bit of confidence coming into Madison, knowing they beat you already. And then you got to go on the road to Purdue. So you need wins, and it'd be nice to beat teams you should. But it's been the case for a bit of a run, and as of late, I don't know if they're just running out of gas or whatnot, but it just hasn't been the case. So it'd be nice to get one more win and at least give yourself a winning record in the Big Ten.
One player I want to get your thoughts on. I don't know if we want to say has he been the most disappointing so far for Wisconsin this year, or what's going on with it. Connor, it was a couple weeks ago. I think we asked the question after the Rutgers game: is it time to unleash him? When he played 24 minutes and he put up 15 points, and then since then 10 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes. He's averaging 3.5 this year. Last year he was averaging double-digit points. Has he been one of the more maybe perplexing players for you this year?
I think it's more along the lines of has he not improved defensively? Like, we haven't seen him in practice or anything like that, and the players and the coaches are still really high on him. I mean, the way they talk about him, it's just he's working things out, and so who knows what it's actually going on in the facility behind doors, that are closed to us. But it's also the case of maybe he's fallen into that role scenario, whereas last year he was thrust into play and got a lot of minutes because he had to. And now with some of the other guards that we've seen in Storr, Klesmit, Hepburn, and Blackwell, who all appear to have more well-rounded games, and say what you will about Chucky giving up shots and passing more. I think overall his game defensively and being an assist guy is still doing well. People aren't happy with, his scoring, and they're saying he's bad on the offensive end, but maybe he's falling into a scenario where he's been told to give the ball more to Storr, Wall, Crowell, and Klesmit, and even Blackwell when he's on the floor. So I think maybe we've seen those two guys, who I think most people would say have regressed to the most, fallen into more of a role than having to be thrust into the big spotlight. And I'd like to see Chucky take more of that. I'd like to see Connor get more minutes, but I don't know, and it hasn't been said, behind in public, except when we had Greg Gard. What was it, against Iowa, where he said it wasn't a choice. You needed to feed the ball to Wall and Kraut. That was our game plan, and it wasn't an option. It was a demand. So I don't know what's going on with Essegian. I think just like everybody else, we're speculating since he's not the greatest defender. He's not getting the minutes. But if you need him, he got minutes, like you said. Put up a boatload of points. He got minutes, but it also really didn't help because still the defensive end on him is you're still seeing guys blow by him and score over him. So who really knows what's going on? I wouldn't say it's a letdown. I would just look at it from the side of the basketball standpoint. Maybe there is a reason Purdue and Indiana didn't go after him, and it might be because he doesn't have that defensive side of things, but yet he was one of the top scorers in Indiana State history. So we'll see what moves on through the rest of the season here. I would like to see him get more minutes, but if they're calling him a defensive liability, especially right now, the way the defense has been playing and we've seen them not play well, there might be a reason he's not getting minutes.
Two more questions before I let you go here quickly. One, your thoughts on the talking point that's kind of all across the world, court storming, yay or nay? And then I do want to ask you a quick women's hockey question. But first, Stuart Corman, thumbs up, thumbs down. What are your thoughts?
I'm okay with it. I think it's becoming a little too prevalent.
Mhm.
I remember a time where it used to be reserved for an unranked opponent beating like a top 5 team, and now it seems to happen when ranked teams play, when a historically better program gets a quote unquote upset. So it's really one of those. I don't have a problem with storming the court. I think people right now have a problem with it because 2 high profile NCAA players in Caitlin Clark, who might have been a blocking call rather than a charge, if you will. And then Duke's guy who took a rather large step and shoved the guy and hurt his ankle. So whichever way you want to look at it, you call it protecting yourself and whatnot. I get it. Usually in that kind of scenario, I mean, I've been on the football field for storming of the field for on 2 occasions as an employee, and it's kind of a fend for yourself situation, and I get that, but I was never in fear for my life. And you know what? I was at the Michigan game as a 10-year-old in 90, or as a 9-year-old in 93, when you had lifeless non-breathers happening in that scenario. That changed how Wisconsin was doing seating and how they kept people away from the field. So yeah, there are tragic things that can happen, and thankfully nobody died as a result of that. But there's a smarter way to do it. There's a smart way to stop it. You take all your security that you can and line them up, and you've seen places do that where they just bring a big yellow rope and have about 20 people down the sides of each side of the court and prevent people from coming in. Or you have schools that just allow it to happen, and it just be smart about it. And that is on the venue. That's on the school and the venue, how you handle it. And there's good ways to handle it, and there's bad ways to handle it. And I mean, on a lot of them, you see people bring out ropes at least, and then slowly like go around players and bring it towards the handshake line and allow people to storm the court while not being in the way of players. So yeah, I don't think you need to go the Jay Billis route and once they're on the court, rope them in and arrest every one of them. I don't think you need to fine the school. It's just maybe have the school be smart about it. And I mean, what they're going to say, well, we can't hire that many people for every game. Well, why not? most of the arenas you're in these big schools seat 15,000 people, and you're going with a bare bones, you know, a crew on trying to control that crowd with having maybe 1 to 2 people at each entrance to the arena. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
pay
Yeah.
people. Like, sorry, if you don't want it to happen, pay enough to have people want to be security. And I mean, yeah, there's better ways about it than fining schools and arresting everybody who steps foot on the court.
Mm-hmm. All right, really quick. Badger women's hockey, they're going up against St. Thomas. They swept St. Thomas all season long. I don't want to say easy game or easy series or anything like that, but I mean, Wisconsin should win this one with the first round of the WCHA playoffs.
Yeah, overall they beat them 20-4 in
Yeah.
the 4 games. It should be a sweep. Get your wins Friday, Saturday, no game Sunday. And I mean, you just got done playing back to back against two other top teams in the country. You took 3 of 4 out of all those, and like we talked about last week, they separated themselves from Minnesota, so guaranteed themselves second place. Even had they swept Ohio State, they wouldn't have gotten first, but at least you took one, and I think you ended up losing the conference by 10 points. So there was that lull they went on might have hurt a little bit, but they bounced back. You ended up getting a win on Saturday night, so heading into the WCHA playoffs, you're starting on a good note. Now, just don't play down to your competition, and kind of you don't want to say embarrass them, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean they have in the past. When you beat somebody 20-4 throughout 4 games, it tends to be embarrass them and just move on to the final face off next weekend.
Right. He's RJ Cardinal. Awesome stuff this morning, buddy. As always, too. Appreciate the time. And hey, maybe we'll talk about some Big Ten champions next week for hockey. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking to Barry Richter later this week, who was on the '90 team that last won a conference championship, WCHA at home. So we'll get that kind of flavor this week here, and hopefully get some insight on how it feels to win one at home and what it takes to win it at home. But so hopefully we're talking about a Big Ten championship and a first round bye next week in the Big Ten tournament. And hopefully we're talking about hopefully a couple of Wisconsin Badger basketball wins. And we'll go from there.
Awesome. Dude, appreciate it as always, buddy. Enjoy the week, and we'll catch up next week, okay?
Sounds good. We will talk to you then.
You got it. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. Hey, we got to take a quick break. We got some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room and some comments from Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst. We'll get to that coming up after this quick break. Time for a little picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Going to have the new picks up later today for our picks online through the Fan Cave at sportstalk1051.com. So be patient with me. I'll get those up a little bit later on today for some games coming up this weekend. But we got a couple of them for tonight. Again, the Elbow Room, right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire, looking for somewhere to catch the games or some of the races. Head on over to the Elbow Room, grab some Man Cave Light because they got it available over there too. Got to reach out, see if we can do a podcast over there too for our draft series podcast, them and some other locations here too. So let's do just a couple because I want to get to some comments from Goody. Nothing earth shattering. He's going to be hitting the podium here in just a few minutes. He talks to the local media though. Let's do Badgers taking on Indiana. Now, Wisconsin is favored by 4.5. Badgers winning the cover. It's 4.5, and I still don't feel comfortable on that. Badgers winning the cover. So I'll roll with that one. Still don't feel good about it. We've got, let's go. I want to actually pick a couple of these NBA games because it just kind of piqued my interest here, a skosh. We got obviously the Bucks. Yeah, there's the Bucks. I was like, wait, Bucks play. Yeah. Let's go Mavericks, Cavs. Cavs are at home. They're favored by 4.5. Yeah, I'll go Cleveland in this one. Although, go Dallas because we want the Bucks to go up a little bit in the standings there. And then we've got the Hornets taking on the Bucks. The Bucks are favored by 14.5. Gosh darn it. Let's go with the Bucks and they cover. Huh? Let's roll with it. Bucks and they cover. They better. It's the Hornets and they stink. And I know they've been playing better as of late, but come on now. Let's go dominate on that court tonight. All right. Let's do a little catching up on what Goody had to say. Not a ton, again. And he talks to local media, so there's just little snippets here and there. And he's going to be chatting again here in a few minutes. But some of the highlights. He was asked about David Bakhtiari. He said he hasn't made a move, hasn't made a decision. And basically it's because he doesn't have to at this point in time. Rob Domofsky tweeting says, Brownie Gutekunst said he hasn't made a move with David Bakhtiari because he doesn't like to make decisions before he has to. He certainly doesn't want to carry his cap number once the league starts, though. Quote, like to have a decision before that. No kidding. He says he will give Anders Carlson competition at that kicking spot. We know they signed a kicker already in the offseason, a rookie youngster over there. I don't know if that means they're potentially bringing in a veteran or they're going to go with those two kickers. But, yeah, it sounds like from some of the other comments here, talking about Anders, this is from Matt Schneidman. There's going to need to be a curve of getting better if that's going to continue. Also said about Jordan Love's extension. I'm sure I'll see this from Matt Schneidman, quote, I'm sure I'll see David and Andrew, his agents, while we're here. And when he was asked if Rasheed Walker can be the number one left tackle, he said, I certainly think he's already shown that. And then he does believe that the Packers can win the Super Bowl next year. So, again, if you've got the X/Twitter or whatever and you want to kind of follow along with some of his comments, that'll be coming up at just a couple more minutes when he's at the podium at the Combine. You can do that. If anything big, which I highly doubt at this point in time, but if anything big or newsworthy or interesting kind of pops up, we'll rehash it and hit it up tomorrow. But don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. So, all right. Coming up tomorrow, we'll do another of the business of sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. So we'll hit that up. We've got another classes in session, new segment we started last week. Was it last week? A couple weeks ago. Already kind of losing track of time here. But we got that on the docket. We'll recap hopefully wins by both the Bucks and Badgers. Bucks game tonight, 7 p.m. You can check that out on the radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. So hopefully we'll be talking about a couple of wins from those two ball clubs, especially when it comes to Badgers. They lose another road game to an inferior opponent in the conference. Oh, good Lord. Gonna get ugly. It's gonna get ugly. So we'll hopefully be talking about some positive stuff tomorrow. But there's your shot clock. DP and Danettes, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for chiming in, contributing, texting, tweeting, Facebooking, all that good stuff. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, all right? Just past 6 a.m. Talk to you then.